My name is William, and now we're going to start the Q&A portion of today's talk. If you did not receive a piece of paper when you came in, please raise your hand, and one of our volunteers will come and give you a piece of paper so that you can write your question down. So first question for Donna and Michael. So when did you first become involved in international exchanges?
About 15 years ago, I was a school principal of a primary school. I got invited to go to Japan with a group of principals who were looking at developing programs in the school. My school taught Japanese from preschool to year 7. We were the only school in the state that did that, and we came to try to develop some relationships. Over the next 15 years, I dragged my family to Japan.
We had 2 little kids, and I'm a mother, and I had a mother. My mother has since passed away, and I didn't want to leave home. I had a family, I had a house, I had a job, I was teaching, I had 2 babies, and he wanted to take me to a country where I didn't know the language, I didn't know the culture. It was totally scary for me, so I said no a lot, and then eventually we went, and it was the best thing we ever did. I saw our children grow and develop, and I did too. So that love started us looking further.
And it looked at us looking at international affairs across the world. We do a whole lot of work in France now as well with schools there. We do some work in a history basis on World War I within there, and we do a lot of work within English language studies within Australia as well.
Great, thank you. Some people describe Western cultures as tossed salads. So what's the difference between this analogy and a melting pot?
Do you want to go?
Oh, I suppose it's a similar analogy. Australians, we always try and find something a little bit different to everyone else.
Oh, I think
A melting pot, the actual ingredients melt together. A salad, they stay the same.
They stay there. You've got different parts.
They're jumbled up, but they haven't joined.
I think the melting pot, I think for Australia, is a better analogy because it's, even though we have parts sitting separately, they actually combine really well. And it's a better taste when they're all combined together. So I think melting pot, tossed salad means a little bit of disarray. Multiculturalism is not disarray.
And also in a tossed salad, you eat the tomato and it tastes like tomato. You eat the lettuce and it tastes like lettuce. In a melting pot, the butter has melted, you can't see it anymore, but it's there. And after a few hours of cooking, the taste has matured, or it's thickened, it's changed state. It's not what it was 2 hours ago.
And the tastes go together to give you a better taste.
Excellent. Next, as educators, what are some of the major lessons about multiculturalism that you try to teach Australian students?
Australian kids we have a new national curriculum which has just come out in the past 2 years. And they've brought out a couple of new focuses. And one of the new focuses is the Asian connection, because we are connected to Britain and to America, but we are close to Asia. So that's one of the focuses for our kids. The other one is the Aboriginal people and acknowledging their gifts and their talents. And the other one is sustainability, as in the environmental issues. So our children in Australia are being taught our history again, because our history hasn't been taught properly to our kids. So our Australian kids are finally realising that most of us came to Australia as convicts, as prisoners from England. And they're very proud, our Australian kids are very proud, and when they realise that maybe their great-great-grandfather came to Australia because he stole someone's handkerchief. He's a robber. He's not, he was a man that was sent to Australia for 7 years with hard labour. They change their perspective of who they are as Australians. So we're looking a lot at our past. We're also looking in our classroom. In my classroom of kids, I have 10 or 12 different kinds of kids from everywhere. So so they can speak their own language separately, but together we speak English, but we also share lots of fun in other ways as well. So we live it every day.
I think a number of years ago when culture became really important in Australia, multiculturalism became a word. Many people tried to teach it, and they tried to teach it in schools. And I think they found that it was more than teaching, it was awareness raising. So I think the multiculturalism today is about raising awareness of those cultures that exist within Australia. So, for example, in the secondary school curriculum, there is a subject on religions of the world. So our students study 5 or 6 religions of the world, which are now part of the Australian framework anyway.
And I think that's a big point. The government has recognised the need of acknowledging multiculturalism. So within our teaching, we must teach history. We must look at religions of the world. And I just left my elementary students who were doing a major history assignment on where their grandparents came from. And I had a little boy called James, 11 years old. His grandmother came from Spain, and she married his grandfather in Sydney, an Australian fellow. And he was amazed to see where grandma actually came from, what her country looked like. So our children are assessed. There's a criteria sheet that they have to be assessed on, looking at what are the parts of the cultures that your grandparents came from. Compare them with Australian criteria. What is the difference? What are the similarities? What is the future for Australia? So we work at school on what it means to come from a multicultural background.
And it's about that I think it's raising awareness. And I think we need to do a lot more in that, raising the awareness so that people are aware of this. Don't keep it hidden. Raise the awareness. Celebrate the different cultures. Celebrate the cultures and all that they bring with them.
Great, thank you. In your talk, you mentioned that it's important for the older generation to learn from the younger generation. So what's an important lesson, or the biggest lesson that you've learned from any of your students?
To be open to the mind of the young person.
And sometimes, I'm thinking of my daughter, she will come in and she will start telling me stories, and if I'm not in a good mood, I will say, come back later. Because sometimes, especially as a mother, she might say some things and I will, no, you don't. I need to listen first and then respond afterwards. She is one of our greatest teachers, isn't she?
She is. And look, it's a challenge. It is a real challenge because we all become very set in our ways. And in our own cultures, we have certain cultural identities and patterns according to age. And in some cultures of the world, age stipulates importance in terms of jobs, in terms of all sorts of things. And while that's all wonderful and that's fair, I think the young people have a freshness of mind that is unrestricted. It's got creativeness. We see students who come from a preschool that has got a creative, wonderful world. They get to high school and primary school and high school, and they get into a structure. It takes away their creativity.
And there's an energy. There's an energy with the youth. There's a positiveness. And I don't believe the youth consider that, I'm sure I'm speaking on your behalf, you don't consider you just live in Korea now. You live in the world. So the world is just it's at your fingertips, isn't it? You can get there right now. So they're very aware that that's a global village now. It's not just... So Isabel teaches us a lot.
And it's not about throwing out the old. We're not saying that at all. There is a great respect for the past. But from the past comes the future. And we need to find the balance where that fits together. So to take some of the old, add it to some of the new, and you end up with the future.
And I suppose the last thing is to pick your battles. There are some things you can respond to that come from your heart, but there are some things that come straight from your gut, and that's not a great reaction. So the children are more naive, but they have a lot more different experiences than what we ever coped with at that age, so they can teach us a lot if we listen.
And the world of tomorrow is going to be very different to today. It's going to be so, we don't know. That half of the jobs, careers and activities that these young ladies or some of the younger kids here today will experience out there tomorrow have not yet begun to be even thought about. So we need to be open to what the future holds and to take that and to be able to work with it to improve our world for the future. Because that's what it's about. It's about improving our world community, our global world, the way we all relate across countries, across the planet, for the future.
And these kids will have your grandchildren.
Yeah.
So you need that connection.
You mentioned how the children of today are going to become the leaders of tomorrow, especially the ones that participate in these international exchanges. So when somebody wants to become a good leader, what are the first and most important steps they can take towards attaining that goal?
I think what we saw as the advice from some of those people there, dreaming. Be a dreamer. And don't be frightened of dreaming. Have a go.
I'm thinking of a little girl called Chloe in my Year 7 class in Australia. Fantastic leadership potential. If anything had to be done, I'll do it, miss. I'll do it. But the thing she lacked was that she didn't bring others with her. It was totally about her. So there is that part where you want to step forward, but you need to be able to work with others around you to make it worthwhile. So there's that community thing as well.
Leadership is not I. It's about we. When you bring people on a journey with you, that is the leader. And I think throughout the world, we know that the people who have said, a lot of people who have said I, haven't necessarily been the best leaders. If you can bring people on the journey with you, you will be a true leader.
Like we said in one of those videos, acknowledge the talents of others. Be able to pick those out and utilise them together.
And step by step, slowly. Don't rush it. Take your time and smell the roses. Enjoy the taste. Those kids that came to Australia for 1 week enjoyed the taste. And they came home, and I hope that they still taste it.
Vegemite.
Vegemite.
Be courageous. Have courage to try.
We only have time for one more question today. It's a very interesting talk, and we've generated a lot of questions. But if we didn't have time to get to your questions, please feel free to talk to the speakers after the talk today. So the final question today is, what is something you appreciate about Korean culture?
I just generosity of the people. We've come from Seoul, and we were through Busan yesterday, and Seoul is a very big city, and many of the people, because we can't speak Korean, and I would love to speak Korean, and I will speak Korean one day. When I realise I can't speak Korean, I speak English, and I know many Korean people can speak English or understand it at least. So the many people who noticed us on the train when we're jungling around with our bags and there's thousands of people around us, got up from the seat and asked us to sit down. The number of people who said, after you. The number of people who said, are you okay? That's very special. That's heart-to-heart stuff. And I love that. I noticed a lot of that.
And I think for me, it's having the opportunity to be with people. To share the culture, the differences and everything by just going to the shop and talking to someone. We walked down through our hotel in Seoul the other day, and these high school kids came around the corner, and they were just going off to school, normal high school kids, and they saw us. And it was, hello, how are you? Are you good?
There was one girl at the front and this very shy boy at the back. And this one girl, she's walking along that, and she, hello, how are you? We jumped back and said, we're really great, and you? And it just made her day, but it made our day.
And for me, that was the everyday experiences is what I love. And whether it be Korea, I love the culture. The thing that I, in a deep way, the thing that I love about Korea is also, there is a wonderful story to be told about Korea. And I don't think enough people in the world know it. The history and the culture here is amazing. And I don't think enough people know it. And one of the things that I want to do when I go home is tell people more about the Korean story, the history, the people. And I think that is what we wanted those kids to do when they came to Australia also, to talk about Australia and the relationship with the people and what they did every day. And as I said, it's about relationships, and we love developing relationships with groups of people and communities, and we just look forward to continuing that journey, because it is a journey, and we love being on it with you.
And the other nice thing that happened yesterday, little tiny kids. I teach little kids. I love little kids because they are what they are. There's no pretense. Little tiny girl in the toilet yesterday, and I walked past, and I'm very used to walking past, and they will shy away. So I walked over to her and I just tapped her on her shoulder, and her face just looked up. She had a big giggle. That's what it's about. You know, it's just reaching out to other people and just feeling like you belong. And she watched me the whole way out of the toilet, and I just waved to her and went. So it's the people stuff.
Yeah. And we live in a global world. We live in a wonderful world. There are so many better things than there are bad things. And we need to celebrate those good things every day.
And Korea is a beautiful country.
It's a beautiful country, and we look forward to continuing a wonderful relationship with the wonderful people here. Thank you.
Excellent. So that's all the time we have today for the Q&A. So let's give Michael and Donna another big round of applause.